Hello, good afternoon, everyone. And for those who are watching from different time zones, good morning or good evening. My name is Marilyn, founder and CEO of Customized Training Solutions Private Limited or CTS. And we are passionate about helping leaders and organizations who are continuous learners and action takers to transform and thrive in all aspects by co creating and customizing programs with our world class resources. We have served over 3,000 leaders from over 30 countries in different industries. That includes Petronas, Sony Mobile, ProLife UK, Ayala Group, Chevron, Tencent, Jollibee Foods Corporation, and Shell, to name a few. Experts say that the pandemic will last for the next 3 to 5 years. And this is why we are organizing several interventions, including this interview, to help leaders who don't know how to stay relevant, those who actually find it stressful to lead and ensure performance of a remote team, and for those who are afraid to keep that they can't keep your team or probably your business. So to stay relevant and continue to lead effectively in any situation, do join us for our interventions. And it's my great pleasure to introduce today our leader, Paddy Kennedy. Paddy is a professional speaker, speech and voice coach, leadership and performance coach, and accent reduction teacher. She is the principal of her own international communications company, Kennedy Communication Studio. Her clients come to her from over 100 countries, all looking for a better, more effective way to speak, communicate, and lead. She is considered a global thought leaders in the field of voice, communications, and leadership. So without so much further ado, I'd like to bring in and invite Paddy. Hi, Paddy.
Hi, Marilyn. Thank you so very much for inviting me today. And I'm really looking forward to talking to your guests. This is a very important topic, particularly today in these times that we find ourselves in. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Yes, thank you so much, Paddy, for your time, for giving us your. I know you've been traveling around as well, and I'm glad that you made some time for us here to hopefully inspire more leaders around the globe in terms of like your specialization on leadership and communications, which is the like I would say the core of the conversation that we're gonna have today, right? So to start with, basically, I have only 8 questions for you. The first 3 questions would basically revolve around understanding where you're coming from, your perspective. The 4 to 6 question will be mainly around, I would say, the juicy or meaty part of the conversation, like more techniques, tips, and tools from you. And the 7 to 8 questions are kind of open questions. So I'm curious to know how are you going to respond to these two Miss Universe questions that I'm gonna pose to you. So to start with, I'd like to find out if you can please share with us like your leadership experiences, influencers if you have any, and if you also have like a favorite leadership style that you'd like to impart to us, feel free to share with us.
Thank you. Leadership and communication obviously are two of my very most important and favorite subjects. You know, I have been an entrepreneur. Okay, so I'm old. I've been an entrepreneur for 50 years, 50 years. And in those days, we did not use this fancy term entrepreneur. We were self employed, we were freelancers. And I learned there and then the importance of leadership is an inside job. I always say this to all of my clients: leadership must first come from the inside. You must have the courage and the bravery to step up and lead yourself, because you can't expect people to follow you if you don't know how to lead yourself. So I would say that, you know, in all of those years, I have learned hands on what it means to be a leader, because I have to come up with my own, market my company, create my programs, etc., etc. So leadership is first of all and foremost an inside job. To have the courage, have the self-belief that yes, you can. And if there's areas about yourself that you're not crazy about, then just go quietly on your own and work on some personal transformation, some personal development. Leaders must be developing themselves constantly, and especially now that we're in this. I like it that you're not calling it the new normal. I really appreciated that, that if this is the next normal. And I think when we call it the new normal, we're jumping ahead of ourselves. Now, I've been working in executive leading since 2000 when I moved to New York. I'm a Canadian and I was living in New York City, and I got a fabulous work with some of the world's top bankers, top CEOs from around the world who had come to New York for various reasons, many of them to study language, to study international leadership. And I then used a lot of the work of Bill George, who is one of the founders, I guess you could say, of authentic leadership. He wrote a very good book called Your True North. Authentic leadership is about knowing your story, knowing who influenced you, just as you are questioning me, knowing where does your desire for leadership come from, and what's your story? Why is it that you want to be a leader? And these are very, very important questions. But leadership has been trying to change, in my opinion, ever since the late 80s, when transformational leadership started to come into the foreground. But people were resistant to let leadership transform. A lot of the leaders at the top, they were in the lead. And the truth of the matter is, when they turned around, they discovered they had very few, if any, followers. Today, leadership is about followership. So, as we've gone on from the last 20 years, I think authentic leadership is very important. I think that you have to know who you are to be a leader, and you have to know yourself, the good, the bad, and the ugly, as they say.
Mhm.
But in the most recent time, I've been really influenced by the work of Keith Ferrazzi. He wrote Never Eat Alone, which when I first saw that book, I thought, no, no, you have to learn how to eat alone. I was living in New York, and I was out for lunch by myself, and somebody next to me was reading the book Never Eat Alone, and I thought, well, you should be able to eat alone. You should be able to function on your own. But what he means is keep networking, and his new rules for leadership today are tremendous. They're written in the middle of the COVID experience, and they really address today's leadership issues. Hybrid teams, working completely remotely, how do we address this? And leadership, as I see it, and I agree with him completely, is really, really changing a lot. So I would say that he today, in this moment, there are others, but he has a book, Leading Without Authority. I highly recommend this book. He, you can follow his program, Ultimate Leadership, through Mind Valley. If your people know of Mind Valley, if they don't, they should really Google Mind Valley. And for about $400 to $500 a year, you get access to many programs, including Keith Ferrazzi's program. I highly recommend it because I work this program with many of my leadership students right now. How do we co-elevate our teams so that everyone crosses the finish line at the same time? How do we smash down silos so that people are not working in individual little groups? Because if you're working hybrid or at home, those silos are gone. So how do we team out? How do we cross the barriers that have always been there and work more together? And the leader, according to him, and I agree completely, the leader is on the team, an integral part of the team, and co-elevates with the team. So there's not anybody who's still leading from that I'm the leader and you're behind me. That's dinosaurs. That's the dinosaurs. And they all went by the road of extinction. So, and then I have to say, as influencers, my clients, I have to give my clients the most credit because my clients teach me how to coach. My clients keep me on the cutting edge. My clients are involved in fintech, all these brand new systems of doing business that if it weren't for them, I would be slow to learn about it. But my students demand of me that I be on the cutting edge and come present. So Bill George, Keith Ferrazzi, and my beautiful clients. Those are my biggest influencers.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing with us your take on and sharing with us your experience on leadership early on, like what you've shared for the last 50 years doing your own business and being influenced in terms of authentic leadership by Bill George and all. So and recommending us as well Mind Valley. Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about them as well and been in some of the programs as well, of Mind Valley. So thank you for sharing that with us. And so, I mean, you've shared your experience, and like looking up to your some of your clients in terms of leadership. So, what is leadership for you, if you were to define it in a sentence?
I love this question in a sentence. I can tell you what leadership is not to begin with. It is not, I'm the king of the castle and you all do as I say. It is no longer that. We say that leadership today is pluralistic. It's not an individualistic role anymore. You cannot lead without your followers. Even Harvard offers courses on followership. It's part of their executive leadership program. So we really now today have to consider our team as and who's following us and what's in it for them to want to follow us. Leadership today must, especially through COVID and as we enter this new normal, next normal, whatever that's going to be, it
Mm-hmm.
has to be humanistic. We have to bring in new core values. I work with women from the United Nations, and I love that one of the main core values of the United Nations is care. We have to, as leaders, we have to care. The whole planet is living in a psychological war zone right now. I mean, we just thought that if we had our vaccines, that we could go back to work, and then along comes another variant of this virus. We have been living in a psychological zone of fear, of not knowing, well, how will this affect our children? As a business owner, how does this affect our business? We have to bring in empathy. Leaders must be empathetic right now. Before, whatever was happening with your family, that was kind of your problem. You're here to work with my company. That doesn't work today. Plus, people today are smart. Many young people say, well, why would I help build your dream? I want to build my dream. Leaders have to know, how do I get my team to buy into our vision? You know what I know that leaders have to remember? I've been in the business of human development for 50 years. People, no matter, and I've worked with some nasty CEOs from the very high level. These guys are not nice people, but they're powerful and they're really good at getting results. That's why they have those jobs. But you know, I've never met a person yet who did not want to be part of something bigger than themselves. Every human in my 50 years of coaching, when asked, how would you like to leave the world when you're gone? They all say, I want to leave the world a better place. If you want people to follow your vision and help you create your vision, then you have to include them, give them a sense of belonging so that they say, this is the best organization in the world. I'm on the best team in the world. And you have to do that through empathy. You have to listen. How are your kids? Did you find the right tutor for you? You've got to listen. You've got to interact. There has to be communication from the top down, yes, and communication from the bottom up. It's got to be that way in today's world. Otherwise, I'm training a group coming up here in Dubai early next week. And I asked them, why are you hiring me to train? It's because we feel that our team does not feel that they belong. So how do you do that? Well, you get them involved in sharing your goal, your vision, making them feel like you can't do it without them. Got to make them feel important. You have to listen to them. This, to me, leadership today is about bringing out the best in people so that they will buy in to your vision, your mission, your goal, and help you to succeed. Because that's what they want to be. They don't want to be on the outside. They want to be part of something. We all want to be part of something that's working. I've never met a person that doesn't want to be part of something successful. Talk to them. Listen to them. My dear late brother used to say, 2 ears, one mouth. As a leader, you have to use them accordingly. Listen twice as much as you speak, and especially now in these troubled times of this pandemic that just seems to keep coming back at us.
I love how you reminded us that we have 2 ears and one mouth, and it just say, and it's good that we had we've been having more and more realization about that, right? I mean, with the pandemic, with the difficulties of working remotely and all those stuff, communication has given us an opportunity to, because when you're apart, it's critical that you are listening to the people that you are communicating with, right? So I would say that that's one of the silver lining that we've actually received during this pandemic, right? For us to be able to, like, you know, to care more, like what you've said, um, to practice empathy in working with people, and at the same time, having that feeling of belonging within the organization, and that includes, or it's critical for us to be able to communicate well to our team, right? Like what you've said and what you have highlighted, and it's all about listening and um, having them to open up as well, right? In terms of like what's their ideas, and because that gives them as well the feeling of, oh, okay, he's listening to me or she's listening to me, right? And
Yeah.
that really, like, would encourage as well more ideas, sometimes even better ideas, right? um, in the organization that you don't normally hear.
Yeah.
And we've mentioned as well during the introduction about, like, the difficulties that we're facing now that people are working remotely, and as I said, like, I've actually called it the next normal. And I'm so curious to know, how would you then define and describe the next normal?
This is a very difficult question to answer because we'd have to have a crystal ball because nobody really knows what's coming next. But so what I do know about what's coming is that we better be ready. We better be agile. We better be ready to reimagine. We better be prepared to help our teams to be resilient. we we need to be ready for whatever comes. I work with several executives in New York, and when it looked like the pandemic was over, these big corporations, because they're renting, they've got these huge, massive skyscraper buildings in Manhattan, and they wanted everybody to come back to the office. Okay, come back, and almost all of them had to backtrack because they had their teams and their employees coming to the office, but they were not aware of the psychological the problems of the psychology. Because for a year and a half, I couldn't sit close to you because you could kill me, or you couldn't sit close to me because I could kill you. I have to wear a mask. I can't touch what you've touched. And this has affected the psychology of the human race right now. We're afraid. So this is why I think we have to bring in new core values. We don't know what the next normal is going to be. It's changing all the time. Before this Omicron or whatever it's called came out of South Africa, everybody thought, "Yay, let's buy our tickets, let's go on vacation, let's do this," and wham! All of a sudden, countries had to close down. So the thing is that we don't know. Therefore, we have to have an open mind. We have to have our hearts open. Now, I know a lot of CEOs think, "Oh, crazy." There's a study done. I can't remember the name of the woman that wrote it. The problem when you travel, I don't have my books, everything is on a tablet. When I don't see the books, I forget the name of the book and I forget the author. But she did it, it was her PhD. And this is what stuck to me from that book, that when interviewed, 80% of CEOs admitted to having no self love.
Wow.
Shocking. This is why they admit this is what leads to narcissism. This is what leads to that it's my way or the highway. So, this is an opportunity for all of us who are leaders to open our hearts. Come on. We can't say we're all in the same boat because some people have a yacht and some people have a little paddle boat, but we are all in this journey together. And I don't care how wealthy you are or where you are on the chain in the company, we all have the same concerns. We must be listening to each other. It's really important for the CEO and the directors to come down onto the floor level and say, "How are you doing? What issues are you facing? Let me listen to you because we don't know what's coming next." I hear people say, "Oh, this will be over and we'll go back." You can't lead back. You have to lead forward. You can't go back. Not going back. I mean, some things we will return to, but the psychology, if we as leaders are not prepared to make our employees' well-being the bottom line, if we still think that it's all about profit, then you're going to go by the way of the dinosaur. The world is changing. The new normal, the next new normal, whatever we're going to call it, requires humanistic values, core values that exceed or supersede the profit. Yes, we want continuous improvement. Yes, we want sustainability. And of course, we want continuous profitability. But in today's world, you're only going to get those through treating your employees through their well being, not through how well they do the job, because they won't do the job that well if you're not considering their psychology and what's going on for them. So it's hard to describe what it will be, but I'll tell you what we need to be. We need to be ready, we need to be open, we need to use our imagination, and we better be agile. Like in North America, we have the weeping willow, a big wide trunk, but the leaves are like this all the time. We have to be like that, well rooted in our values and in the direction and the mission of our companies. We may have to rewrite the vision and the mission to accommodate, but we have to be able to flow. And in my experience, I have clients that are CEOs that will not, they do not believe, they think they can go back to the old way. And I'm telling you, they're struggling. The companies that I work with that are doing well are so progressive, so ready for whatever comes next that they're not losing in this time. They're actually growing. It can be done. It's mindset.
Yes, and that's really true. And I would like to highlight again what you said in the last part, that it's all about the mindset, right? And again, we need, for us to be able to like really get the result. I mean, like you've said, dinosaurs or the old traditional leaders are still looking in the, or pushing for that profitability, without really like realizing how important is it is to be, to have that balance, to have that love, to have that care in a corporate setting, because at the end of the day we're working with humans, right? And part of being working with humans is having that interconnect connection, and integration, and having that holistic type of working environment, because um, we're human.
Yeah,
It's just simply how we work. A lot of technology has changed, a lot of things have changed, but humans haven't. so so
true.
that's the way we work. We need to be loud, we need to be connected, we need to be listened to, we need to take care of our health, our well-being, and that's part of just being us.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and and interestingly, like, there are also a lot of studies. I mean, Paddy, you mentioned about the the 80% having no self-love earlier, for CEOs, and that's really like bad. Not really a so good news, right? For everyone. And there are a lot of studies proving that when you take care of your team, they will take care of your customers, and therefore productivity and profitability will be the byproduct of doing so, right? And
absolutely.
that's actually like making it, or simplifying it for most leaders or organization, and yet it's not that easy to for them to
No,
implement it.
they have tremendous stress on them. I mean, I'm fully aware that the CEO and the directors have terrible stress on them, and especially through these trying times. And yet, you're absolutely correct. We are. I was at a conference in Muscat, Oman, just a couple of weeks ago, and it was an economic summit. And the second half, the afternoon, was done on human. It was all a big workshop on human resources. So I attended because I work with so many human resources directors, and it was interesting. They were talking about competencies, and and data upon data upon data, and it was interesting. But finally, one woman in the back of the room, she put up her hand, and I just wanted to go and hug her. She said, "This data is very interesting, but we're not talking about data resources. We're talking about human resources." And I then joined in the conversation because you can train and you can talk about data and you can talk about why they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. There's an enormous gap between knowing and doing. All of us have this. We know better, we don't do it. But in America, they spend on average $63 billion a year to train their employees, but they don't take into account that these are human beings. How can we get them to do what we want them to do? We can't just always treat them as human doings. That's what I'm saying. We are human beings who have a job. We are not human doings, right? And this is where this whole concept of just listen and this is a great opportunity for CEOs and high ups in the company to begin to practice breathing, meditation,
True.
visualization. These are old tools. Some people call them new age. They're actually old age.
Mm-hmm.
And now's the time that even these high ups in the company have got to get, as my dear late mother would say, off their high horse and come down to reality. They would learn to love themselves. They would learn to love
True.
their stuff. It's so true. Somebody who's appreciated, and you see it on Facebook all the time or on Instagram, those who are appreciated will give you much more than those who feel invisible or like you don't even care. This is just human nature. We are dealing with human beings who happen to also be human doings so that they can feed their families. But we are first and foremost beings. We have hearts, we have souls, we have problems, we have emotions. And I
True.
think that for CEOs, there's a great time. I mean, Warren Bennett in 1987 was the father of transformational leadership. He was really trying to get all this going, and it just got pushed away. If you're right, if this pandemic has done one thing, it has kicked leadership in the butt and said, now is the time to change. Change. Leaders, you must change. You must become compassionate, tender, more loving. It won't kill you. I promise you it won't kill you. I got lots of people doing it and their companies are flourishing.
Yes, yes, I really so agree with you on that. And that's the reason why I've been like doing all my best on how I thinking of how can you actually connect knowledge with implementation, because this is one of the top problems obviously HR or leaders would have. And second is that how can they actually accept to have like a more holistic type of program that will really transform their organization, because right now it's like, we don't do that in the organization. You've mentioned about meditation or self-love and all those stuff, and not a lot of organizations are kind of open to that. And I remember in a package that I've created recently is that I put like the first thing that you have to work on is the mindset, heart set, and the well-being of organization. And that's the similar thing that we've actually run in a summit last February, and it was well accepted. But why are we not, totally incorporating this in most businesses or organization, right? So that's very interesting. I mean, I'm glad that you have the same um, idea and have the same like thought on this matter as well. So, moving on to the next question, we've been talking about the challenges most leaders have been facing in the next normal, and even while you define leadership, what not leadership is was the first that came up. So I'm just wondering. I mean, you've mentioned you've been doing the business as an entrepreneur for the last 50 years, focused especially on communications and leadership. And from your experience working with corporate leaders, what would you say would be the top three problems that they normally face?
Well, in today, the number one is you have to be agile. You have to be willing to take a risk. Nobody's going to die. I mean, you don't fail unless you quit. You can try something. If it doesn't work, you can go back to the drawing board. You've got the number one thing is an unwillingness to change. Now, we always say people don't want to change. That's not true. People don't want to be changed.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we communicate that change? So the first thing that leaders have to accept in 2022 is you have to be agile. It doesn't matter how you did it before, because that is not this. We're not living in that world anymore. And we are not going to be living in that world because, as you said at the beginning, this pandemic could hang on for another 5 years. And experts are saying, if not this one, then the next one. There'll be another one coming. So we really have to know how to be agile. I alluded to it a little bit earlier. I'm a communication person first and foremost. You can be a great communicator, doesn't mean you have to be a leader. But if you are a leader, you have to be a great communicator. And this is one of the biggest issues. George Bernard Shaw said that the biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has happened. How many times have we had conversations and we feel that we've been very clear on what we say, and then a week later you say, but don't remember I told you, and they say, you never said that, because they heard something different. We must take time to communicate. Don't just tell. Communication isn't telling people what to do. Communication is from community, from commune. It's an exchange, a back and forth. We have to learn, and this is why I say top-down communication, bottom-up communication. We have to get out of our ivory towers as leaders and come down and talk. And then we must listen. And we must consider not just listen while we're swiping our phone. I mean, listen with both ears. The best communicator is the best listener. So they've really got to focus on understanding strategic communication. People don't really understand what that is. Strategic communication is how are you communicating your brand, your vision, your goal, so that everybody sees it. You see, when we understand in the English language, when we fully understand, we say, I see what you mean. How does the human being process language? We process it visually. If I say, don't think of a table, right here, we hear it, but we don't know what it means until the brain says, oh, she said table. Oh, she said, don't think of a table. But the first thing that we do is we see it, and then we negate it, and then the brain says to the ear, oh, she said, don't think of a table. This is how we process language. This is how we understand language. So when we're communicating, leaders have to understand this. They used to call communication a soft skill. They don't now. It's now considered a hard skill. Because so much goes by the wayside because we think we communicate, but no, we have not checked to see if they see. You see, if somebody says, I think I know what you mean, that's not the same as I see what you mean. I think I know what you mean implies doubt. We've got to communicate and listen so that we are sure that everybody is in alignment or on the same page. So that's a really important thing. And I mean, there's many things. So it's agility, it's the communication. And I think leadership is situational. If you are sticking to one style of leadership, you're going to have trouble. So if we look very quickly at the EQ of leadership of Daniel Goleman, he comes up with 6 basic styles of leadership, and it's all situational. A leader must be a visionary. You've got to have a clear vision. You have to know how to articulate the vision. Because, if you want me to get in a boat with you and you don't know where you're going and you don't know how you're going to get there, I'm not getting in your boat, girl. I got to be able to see where we're going and why we're going. Otherwise, I'm not buying in, and I'm not going to paddle your boat with you because I don't know where you're taking me. So if I don't see your vision, now you have to come and coach me. A leader has to be a coach. A leader has to care enough about their team that they can coach that team to see that vision, to get them to buy into that vision. There's the associative style of leadership, where a leader understands that the well-being of the team is really important. If you want to get to the bottom line, you better make sure that your team is doing well. There's the democratic style. Sometimes a leader has to say, I don't know, Marilyn, what do you think? Doesn't mean that you decide for me because I'm the leader. The buck always stops with me. I have to make the decision, but sometimes I'm going to be democratic. I'm going to ask my team, I'm going to be vulnerable because leaders have to be vulnerable. As Brene Brown says, vulnerability is not a weakness, vulnerability is a strength. So sometimes we have to be vulnerable and say, what do you think? And then go away and make our decision based on listening again. And then there are the other 2 styles of leadership that we use intermittently. One is called the pace setter. That's like pushing to a deadline. Leaders make a big mistake. I worked in an organization once as a volunteer. president was everything had to be done last night at midnight. Everything was, I mean, I took in the job and within 5 days I was 52 emails behind. I panicked. Like, I can't be in my business, I can't be 52 emails behind. My business would fail. So we need to make sure that we only use deadlines when the deadline is necessary. And the final one, and this is what I really want people to hear, is the least effective style of leadership and the most used, and that's the commanding style. And this is where leaders have to choose. It is not my way or the highway. It is not do it because I said so, because they will not do it. So these leadership, those are just six basic styles. And you have to go in and out of it. If the barn is on fire, if something is happening, then you have to be commanding now. But you've got to be ready. You can't just sit there in your ivory tower and say, "Well, this is my style." That's not leading. That's demanding, commanding, bossing. It's not leading. You have to be with your people. You have to make sure that they see what you're trying to get. You have to communicate it. So leadership is an inside job and it's situational. Those are two things I always start all my leadership clients off understanding.
Wow, thank you for summarizing with us the problems that most leaders do face in terms of leadership. And before I actually proceed to the next question, which will be, I would say, like, understanding more of how they can actually address those problems that most leaders are facing, I just wanted to acknowledge Prakash Sharma. He's actually engaging with us. Let me just and he's saying hi to you, Paddy.
Hi, Prakash.
And he says that good point around the willingness to change is required. I just saw the response from him, and he said that it's true that a powerful communicator may not be a leader, like what you said, but a leader needs to be a powerful communicator. And yeah, he's saying, "Oh, good, Maryland, keep up the good work." Thank you so much, Prakash, for engaging with us. If any of our live audience are watching right now, feel free to post your questions. Paddy might be able to answer one or two of your questions on top of what we've been discussing today. Yeah. And so that leads me to my next question then. Like what I've said, we don't leave them with the problems, although you've actually like shared with us like some of the answers to these problems already. But what are the important leadership capabilities or skills you must have in the next normal to continue to lead effectively? If you just if you were just to name at least three or top three um, capabilities or skills.
Well, you need to rewrite your core values to make sure that they are including human behavior. So, that's why care, empathy, become humanistic. My dear late mother used to say, "You may think you're better than someone else, but when you get up in the morning, we all put our pants on the same way. We all get dressed the same way. Nothing is different." So that's number one. I cannot stress it enough. People are afraid to take a risk. You know, you take a chance. You go in your car, you're taking a bigger risk than you're taking getting your team to do something that's never been done before. You got to believe in yourself, especially as a leader. Do you know there's not a problem that comes into our mind for which we cannot find a solution? Every problem that we have, there is a solution. We have to have courage. Leaders today have to have courage more than ever, in my opinion. We have to be just trust ourselves, believe in our team, hire people that you can believe in. If you can't trust your team, you either better train them or get a new team that you can trust. There can't be this great divide between you and them anymore. You've got to sit at the table with them. You've got to co-elevate together so that you all cross the finish line together. You cannot be higher than them. So you've got to get out of your ivory tower, come down to the grassroots. I love the work of Dr. Edwards Deming, who was really the founder in many ways of the Toyota movement. Not well loved in America and went to Japan and was very successful there. And I want leaders to hear this. 95% of problems that happen down on the floor, whether it's in the factory or in the office building, are not because of the employee. They are because of decisions made in the boardroom. Leaders must take responsibility for the results or the lack of results that their employees are getting. If your employees, if they're not closing that knowing doing gap, you better find a way. You know why they're not doing it? Because they know what to do, but there's no human element to it. Look at every one of us on this call. If we feel that there's something good and worthy, we want to be involved in something bigger than ourselves, we will do it. We will do it. But if we feel it's just to help that guy over there get his 6 million a year, we don't want to do it because you're making 6 million and I'm making 100,000. You do it yourself. This is human behavior. So if there's a problem, if your staff, your employees are not performing, do not blame them. Go back to your boardroom and ask yourself some really important questions. Why? How can we make this better? So I think, agility, listening, and better communication, taking responsibility, there's more than just three. Get your courage together, take a risk, mitigate it. But what's the worst that's going to happen? You don't have to write the risk in blood. You can use an erasable pen. You start out, if it doesn't work, put a stop date on it. If we don't accomplish this by this date, then we're going to rewrite this risk. Nobody's going to die. So let's go back to being human beings. If we're going to focus always on human doings, then we're always going to be critical. You didn't do that right. That's not done right. I want you to do this. Why are they not doing it? Because we are not allowing them to bring their heart, their soul, their passion, their wisdom to the job. Let's break down the silos. Let's work together. Let's team out. Let's ask people from different departments to come in and work towards that one goal. That one. And another thing, so many company CEOs do not share their vision or their strategic plan with their employees. Like I told you at the beginning of this question, I'm not going to get in your boat unless you show me the map. You tell me where we're going. You tell me what route, and if not that route, there are alternative routes. If the storm comes up, we've got to find another route. But you have to know I'm not getting in your boat if you don't ensure that we can get there. And another thing I want leaders to think about, how do we get our teams to speak up? We have to provide some kind of psychological safety for our teams. There's many articles on this right now. If you want to, I would suggest dive into it. We have to, the main way we do that is we listen and we accept them as human beings. And then they will feel, if you know this, we all know this, if we feel we're listened to, we will speak. If we feel that it's just going to fall on dead ears, I'll pick up my phone, I'll sit back, I'll think, what am I going to make for dinner tonight? I'm not listening anymore in the meeting. The leaders must take more responsibility for their employees and the results. And don't blame. Stop blaming. If they're not doing it properly, it's because you have not given them the tools, the information, or that spirit, that encouragement. You can do it.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. You've given us more than three, I would say, but that's really powerful. And again, it's all about, you know, working or allowing your team to be human. I love that part that you've mentioned that. I mean, because again, we've mentioned earlier that, you know, we're working with human, and that's important to acknowledge that, to accept that, and to work around that, right?
Yeah,
And I remembered in my previous session as well that we were talking about this being able to have self-awareness, self-mastery, and that's what I'm actually working on right now as well for myself. You know, you've mentioned about meditation, self-love, and that's all of those are just part of it, right? For us to be able to be human, to be in alignment, like what you said as well earlier, right? And that's important for us to really, like, you know, create that full potential that we always have in ourself, right? If you keep on if you stop your team to be human, breaking all those silo and not letting them be, that's already like a no or a way for you to also like um not really get as much from your team as well, right?
Precisely. And they won't go in the direction you want them to go. It's just it's human nature. It's who we are. It's how we are.
Yes, very interesting actually. I had several conversations from my interviews, not only the live interviews, but also like conversations with several leaders around this, humility, self mastery, being human, and all those stuff. And it's very interesting. I'm actually like looking at this and learning more about this as well. So to understand better, like how can you actually incorporate that in the corporate world?
Yeah. There are so
So.
many stories of when a leader comes to. Matter of fact, one of my clients is a CEO, and he's been such a hard dude, just hard, and people don't. And he knows that people don't like him. And I said, well, you must let yourself be vulnerable. He said, I can't be vulnerable. That's weakness. I said, no, no. And a member of his family had just passed away, and he was soldiering through. And I said, go to your team and tell them that you just lost somebody very dear to you to COVID. Just tell them. And he did. And the whole team has changed. He had tears. They had tears. They came up. Somebody said, it's so nice to see. I'm sorry for your loss, but it's so nice to see you human. See, in the old days, people said if you were vulnerable, it was a weakness.
Mhm.
Listen, we always talk about what are your strengths. Well, strengths are great. We need to build on our strengths, no doubt about it. But people can be envious of your strengths. Oh, he's so good at that. Oh, he's got his PhD, and oh, but I've never met anybody who's envious of somebody's vulnerability. Oh, I wish I'd have a relative die of COVID. Never. That's a place where there's no envy. There's just human emotion, human compassion. Compassion means to come together to feel. Get out of your ivory tower. Get out of your silo. Come down. He said, Patty, I never thought that by showing my human heart, I would gain such respect. I said, yes, because you are a human being and you met them at that level of being human beings. It's what we all share. We are never envious or angry because of somebody's vulnerability.
Exactly, exactly. And sometimes that's what leaders do miss out. They always try to pretend to be someone or to be strong or not to show who they really are and their emotion is, right?
Yeah.
And when we don't accept and acknowledge like that part of ourselves of emotions, feelings, then we tend to be a different person than who we really are.
And we're not authentic because we're not being genuine, because we're being more like a robot
True,
rather
true.
than, yeah,
Yeah, and that's where you started being an authentic leader,
yeah.
from your experience and from sharing with us. And so, I mean, we've been talking a lot about leadership, and the skills or even the challenges that most leaders are facing earlier. And so, what do you believe is the role of learning leadership and transformation in order to thrive in the next normal, whatever it is or whatever it looks like in the future?
You said it a little bit earlier that it's continuous learning. I started out as when I was a kid, I was a competitive athlete. I was a competitive figure skater, and I had a dream of getting to the Olympics. I have been coached since I was 10 years of age. I am 69 years of age, and I have several coaches.
Wow.
I am always coached. I have always been coached. I am always learning. I read, I do audiobooks, I attend seminars. I think, in in parts of the Middle East they retire people at 50. Oh my goodness gracious. For me life begins at 50. The children are gone, they're adult children now, and now I've really got to focus. And learning should never stop. Just because because you're retired just means you're retired from that job. And I will never retire. I used to say that I want to die doing my work, but I don't want to do that because I don't want to hurt my client. I don't want to drop dead in front of my client. But you know what I mean? One of my coaches is Bob Proctor. He's 87. He's still coaching. He's still writing programs. He's still studying. I study every day. I belong to a study group. We meet every morning for an hour and we study and we get back together and we discuss. You cannot transform. And today is all about transformation. The world is change is the one thing that never changes. Change is the only constant. It's always changing. How can we stay abreast with what's going on if we are not studying, if we are not learning, if we are not practicing transformation? Maybe you used to be this way, but it's a new world. Breathe. Take a little walk on the beach or wherever you live. Walk away from all your troubles and woes and go do something for yourself. Work towards transforming because you cannot stay in one place forever. You'll become petrified. And petrified, not only like petrified wood, but petrified meaning terrified. You've got to keep learning. I'm an old duck and the world has changed so much. I've been working online, coaching online since 2008, long before the pandemic. Everybody said you're crazy, it'll never work. No, I had been living in New York working with top executives. Then my dear mom in Canada got hit by a car and was very badly hurt. She was far west coast of Canada. And I went to take care of her. And I thought, how am I ever going to get what I was doing in New York? And I said, well, I'm going to start online. I wanted to start the virtual arm of the company. The bank said, no, you can't do that. That'll never work. My brother, who was a CEO at the time, said, you're nuts. It'll never work. It worked. We've got, again, that's that vision and being agile. But I had to learn. I had to learn how to do it. So when COVID came along and everything was on Zoom, I could actually teach people how to conduct your work on camera because I've been doing it for so long. You're never too old. As long as you have the capability to think, to read, to listen, to see, this is what makes us a human being. And continuous learning. My dear mother was a travel agent, and when she was 67 back in those days, she had to learn how to work a computer. She didn't like it. But she knew that if she wanted to stay alive in her industry, if it was going computer, whether you like it or not, you have to, it's part of being a human. And you know what else? It's fun. What I believed 50 years ago about human development and what I believe today is just grown. I wouldn't say it's that much different, but it's so much deeper. And I'm always learning. I can't say enough about continuous learning. There is no reason to not keep learning. And if you're a leader and you are not learning the new rules of leadership, if you're not learning blue ocean thinking and new ways of strategic thinking, if you're not thinking of the humanistic components in today's world, then you're just a dinosaur. I'm sorry, you'll be fossilized. And you're not going to go anywhere. It's not my rule, it's just world rules. It's the way the world is operating.
True. I love what you've shared just now. I mean, I'm also kind of a learner myself. That's part of my strength and that's part of my passion as well. And that's the reason why I do what I do right now because I'm so passionate with learning and I've seen a lot of transformation not only for myself but for others, like how they have transformed because of learning, like from behaviors to skills to even how they actually cooperate, collaborate, or work with other people, and how they became, the mindset has shifted from the previous one. And again, like what you've said, gone are the days that leaders would be, if they are not willing to learn, they are not willing to change, then it's gonna be difficult for them to survive at at the face of how is it right now. Like, I mean, it's been like the changes are so huge in the last 2 years, whether it's technology and even the way we work together, like the remote working and all those stuff. And you can't really, like, I just want to do this. You can't really push for that anymore if we really wanted to thrive in this next normal. And for sure there will be more changes coming up in the coming years, right? And 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 part of being agile and adaptable, like what you've mentioned earlier, is of course for you to be able to learn, to be able to stay relevant, right?
And it's a human trait that every time we learn something, we want to share it. You know what I discovered today? You know what I found out today? I was reading an article today. It's just natural for us to want to share it. So as leaders, we've got to, and we've got to be sharing it with our teams. People love to learn.
True. Yeah, great, great. Thank you for sharing that with us, Paddy. And so that leads me to my next question, which is my Miss Universe question for you. That if you have a magic wand that you can use, what will you do with it?
I love this question, even though it does have kind of a taste of Miss Universe in it, but that's okay because these are altruistic questions and I'm an altruist. If I could tap the world or everybody on the shoulder or the head with my magic wand, I would want people to understand how magnificent they are,
Sorry, how?
how magnificent they are,
Ah,
their tremendous potential, that their mind, as Bob Proctor teaches, the mind is not a thing, the mind is an activity. That we are more powerful in our minds and the electromagnetic power that comes out of our mind than any power station anywhere in the world. We have unlimited potential in our own magnificence. If you ever listen to the great speaker Les Brown, he starts almost every speech with, "You've got greatness in you." If I had a magic wand, I would tap into that so that people could stop self doubting, self loathing. We all tend to not love ourselves. We have more conversations with ourselves than with anyone else, and 85% of what we tell ourselves is negative.
ouch.
If we could turn that around through affirmations, through the I am, I recommend everybody, I don't care if you're the CEO of everything or you're a janitor, I am. I ask everybody every morning, write one page of I am. I am powerful. I am brilliant. I am successful. I am capable. I am fearless. I am a leader. I'm a great leader. I am. Tap in to this magnificence that is there in every one of us. Why doesn't it come out? I'm not good enough. I can't do that. I'm not smart enough. I don't know how to do that. I don't have enough money. I don't. Years ago, I was asked to write a leadership program for women in Europe because they weren't stepping up to leadership roles. And so I have a social scientist kind of mind. And so I sent out a survey. Why not? Why are you not? And every answer had not enough. I don't know enough. I don't have enough time. I'm not enough. I'm not smart enough. And so I wrote a program called You Are Enough.
Wow, that's an amazing program. That
So
sounds amazing, I would say.
that's what I want every one of our listeners to know. We are here because we have a purpose. Your purpose is to do what you love. Your purpose is to love your life. If you are not loving the life you are living, Mary Morrissey, who's a brilliant coach, says that that longing and discontent that is inside of each one of us is a part of ourselves that is seeking greater expression. Anything
Yes.
that you are longing for, any discontent that you're feeling, this is not a negative. This is a positive. Listen to it because it's your deeper, truest self trying to come to the surface to seek expression. It is your magnificence as a human being, as a human being that is coming, it's trying to come forward. So if I had really, in all of this 50 years of personal development, there are two things. People are afraid to speak up. Why? Because they don't believe enough in themselves, because they don't think they're worth it. We are worth it. If we were not worth it, we would not be here. We would not have come to this planet. There will only be one you through all eternity. There will never be another you. There never has been, and there never will. And remember, this day that we are living today has never happened before, and this day will never happen again. Seize it. Believe in yourself. Just trust me. You are magnificent. Believe
Wow.
it. That's it. That would be my magic wand Miss Universe answer.
Thank you so much. And I'm glad that even without the magic wand, you're already doing this. You're getting the magnificence out of each and every people that you work with, right? And I mean, through this message, for sure, we will be inspiring more people and to know how magnificent there are, and actually that's I mentioned to you earlier that I'm looking into my self mastery, and part of that is really loving myself and knowing what I really am here, my purpose in this in this world, why I'm here. And it's interesting that I came through this gene keys. I'm not sure if you've heard of these gene keys before, uh, and it's really amazing. It's a I would say it's a very good compass or map to find out more like your journey, your role, and your purpose in this world, and it's amazing.
I think that's what we're here for. We are here to be human beings who get to do what we love.
True, and it's just about being. Just
Yeah,
us being will already be not only a gift for ourselves but also as a gift to others, right?
yeah, yes. The word authentic comes from the same, I believe it does, from the same group as author. It
Mm-hmm.
is up to us to author, to write our lives
Mm-hmm.
according to our truth. And
Yes.
our truth is that magnificence. This is not ego. I'm not telling you go out and say, well, I am magnificent. No. Because when people say that, they say that generally because they have such self-hatred that they have to boast. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
talking about that. It's a very quiet transformation. I mean, some people come at it through religion. Well, God gave me these gifts. Others can look at it through science. It doesn't matter what you look at it, at which
Mm-hmm.
direction you look at it from. The fact remains no one can really fully understand the human being, the human makeup. No one has seen the mind. What is the mind? The mind is everywhere in the body. So that mind is infinite. I don't care if you look at it through science, through qigong, through whatever religion. It doesn't matter to me. It's an is. It's an is. It's just a big old is. We are phenomenal, amazing beings. You know, Whoever thought we could fly in airplanes? Whoever thought that you could be in Singapore, I could be in Dubai, your audience is wherever they are, and we are in one shared room. The guy
Exactly.
who started all this communication, Marconi, the guy who first invented the radio, he was put in a mental institution because they thought his ideas were stupid. We have to give thanks to him. That guy was magnificent. Thomas Edison failed 10,000 times before he created the light bulb. That guy was magnificent. We have and the goal achievers, the people who do this, who accept that they have this tremendous power, they're the ones that are changing the world. This
Mm-hmm.
internet has always been here, but we didn't have the awareness. And then
True.
somebody came along and wanted to build on what was there, and before you know it, here we are. We are magnificent. Our brains are our minds rather, not the brain. The brain is separate. The mind is unlimited. If you can see it, you can probably create it if you're willing to pay the price.
And that's about creating vision, as you've mentioned also earlier.
Yeah.
And wow, that's really amazing. I really love our conversation, but that leads me to my last question to you already. If you were to ask yourself a question that you can best answer, what would it be? And if you'd like to answer it for our audience, feel free to do so as well.
Well, this is going to sound like a plug, but it's not a plug. I'm not promoting. I am a consultant for the Proctor Gallagher Institute, and one of my favorite, I always teach my own programs. I always write all my own programs, but this one I'm working on and with clients is called Thinking into Results. Mindset is 95% of success. Strategy, contrary to what a lot of CEOs want to hear, strategy is only 5% of your success. You can strategize from here to the moon and back. But if you don't have the yes, I can do it, I don't know how, but I know what I want. You see, people get caught up in, well, how will I do it? I don't know how you don't have to know how you're going to do it. You just have to know what. Because have you ever noticed that when you really go in pursuit of your dream and you get your mindset going towards that dream, it's not so much the how, it's what. This is what I want. And people always, and resources always come to help you with the how. The how is not your business. Einstein said, this is not philosophy, this is physics. That what we put in, what our output of our mind creates a vibration. And that vibration, people talk about the law of attraction. I prefer to talk about it as the law of vibration. The law of attraction is too much what's in it for me, what can I attract? Well, it's a secondary law. The law of vibration, what I put, what I give, about giving. What I put out has such electromagnetic energy that it vibrates. The human voice, because I'm a voice coach, there's nothing that vibrates stronger to help people, to change people's lives than the sound of your voice. That's why I encourage people to work on vocal training. What we put out is what resonates with the universe. As Einstein said, it's not philosophy, it is in fact physics. So if there's one question that I would ask that I could answer, it would be really start to work on your mindset. Are you believing in yourself? Do you really believe that your mind is unlimited and capable of anything? Do you really believe that there's not a problem that can come into this little brain of yours that you cannot solve? We were born with every answer to every possible problem. Do you believe that? Because if you don't believe that, your mindset is not going to move you in the direction of the results you want. If you want results, you've got to think your way into your results. And that means you've got to avoid the negative thoughts. You've got to change the negative inner dialogue. You want your team to work, you better change the way you're approaching them. If you're not getting the results you want, it's not their fault. You need to change the way in which you are thinking and the way in which you are training them so that they will begin to think into results. Everything we desire, we can create as long as we have our faculties. Stephen Hawking sat in that wheelchair, could hardly do anything, and look at the changes he made to the world. I mean, because he had that desire, he had the faith. Everybody should read Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. It's not about grow rich, making tons of money, although that's fun and that's a big part of it. But growing rich is actualizing all of yourself. Auto-suggestion, I can do this. I'm going to do this by this date. And how am I going to? I'm going to do it by being in service this way. That's the one thing that I want people to take away from today. That, again, we go back, you are magnificent. It doesn't matter what has happened. You create your circumstances. COVID is bad. People who said COVID is bad, my business is going to go down the drain. The businesses went down the drain. People who said COVID, there's an opportunity here. Let me be agile. Let me think differently. Let me create different patterns of behavior for me and my staff. They made it through. Now, there are some industries, airline industries, they suffered, right? But there are many other industries that did not have to suffer the way they did, but they were incapable of thinking forward. As we said earlier, we can't go back. We cannot lead backwards. We have to lead forward. We're all in it together. Everybody's got to take a risk. Everybody's got to take a chance. This is fun. It's fun. Go for it. You don't know what's inside of you until you bring this out. You don't know. If you're following the old rules, you don't even know 1/10, 1/100th of who you are and what your potential is. Potential is power. So that's a long answer to a short question, but I get very, I get very, very passionate about this because I've watched how easy it can be for us to step into our power, our truth, our
Thank
reason.
you. Thank you. Yes, because it's so easy for us to get distracted with the things that we are experiencing and, all these negative thoughts. But again, if we just focus on what we want and what we really look forward to have, then we can always have it, right?
Every day you should write down on a page of paper what I want. I want. You should say, I'm so happy and grateful. I want that now that I want. And then you should flip the page over and do a page of I am and
Wow.
write all that you are, because this is how we get rid of that negative self-talk and we
Mhm.
replace it. You can't get
Yes.
rid of negative self-talk by pushing it away. You can only replace it by focusing on strengths and
Mhm.
on what you really are as a human being, because a lot of the negative talk is about our human doing.
Mhm.
Rarely do we talk negatively about who we are in our heart and soul. But we say, I didn't do that very well. I wasn't good at that. I can't do that. Do. Let's separate the human being from the human. Let's take the human being to work. And let's let the leaders allow the human being to come to work. You'll get results.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much, Paddy. And thank you so much for all our audience. Those who are watching right now, I appreciate you staying live in this session. And also for those who are watching this on a replay, I hope you will enjoy this. I'm sure you will, actually. Thank you so much again, Paddy, for your time and for your magnificent, authentic, and powerful share today.
Mm.
And join us in this journey to create opportunities for everyone through these several interventions to actually create the world that we believe in or the world we wanted to be in, right?
Yeah.
And remember that even the richest investors in the world say that investing in yourself is the best investment you can ever make in your life. And so with that, we would like to leave you with this quote from Dolly Parton, that if your actions create a legacy that inspires others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are an excellent leader. Thank you so much, Paddy, and bye for now, everyone.
Thank you.
Stay
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, stay safe and enjoy the holiday. And again, this is an opportunity for us to probably greet you a happy new year. I hope you will
Yeah.
make a lot of amazing things next year. Now is the opportunity to do so, and I hope we've inspired you with all the sessions and interviews we had with all the amazing leaders. And thank you so much. See you again next year. Bye for
Thank you.
now.
Thank you so much, Marilyn. Bye now.